Lesson 6, Part 1. In the last 3 lessons, we have been examining the archetypal magical elements. In this lesson, we will continue the pattern by studying the last of the 4 elements, fire. I will remind you that there is a 5th element, spirit. The reason is not discussed in the same way as the other elements is because it is the source of the 4 archetypal elements. The way to come to know spirit is by a thorough knowledge and understanding of air, earth, fire, and water. The element spirit is nothing less than the spirit, Rayush, energy of Shakti, of divinity. It is only through those manifestations of divinity of which the Godhead wishes us to become aware that we can come to know the ultimate deity. The infinitude of the divine source of all is beyond the comprehension of our finite minds, save the ways in which the Godhead chooses to be revealed to us. According to the Sefer Yetzirah, air emanated from spirit, primitive water emanated from air, and fire emanated from water. Earth comes from a division of the primitive water into water and earth, although some say it is a combination of the other 3 elements. If you are not satisfied with your familiarity with any of the 3 previous elements, continue to work on the exercises for those elements for another week or 2, and then as you will, be sure to continue and begin the exercises for fire immediately. The element of fire has the qualities of being warm and dry. The following exercises will help you to become more aware of this magical element in your daily life. Exercise 1. Observe those things around you which have the combined qualities of heat and dryness. Compare the heat and dryness of a fire to that of the sun. Interestingly, the burning core of the sun is frequently referred to as plasma, and is spoken of in terms as resemble the way water would be described, such as flowing. Steam has more fire than does ordinary water. Ordinary water has more fire in it than does ice. Thus, to a degree, fire and water can coexist, yet they are considered to be total opposites and should be able to cancel each other out. How can they exist together when they should destroy each other? The answer is in the percentage of each. Much water destroys a little fire, and vice versa. But even a small amount of fire changes water, and a small amount of water also has some effect on fire. Try to observe fire in its various combinations with the other elements around you. Keep a record of this in your magical diary. Do this exercise daily for at least 1 week. Exercise 2. Find a place which is extremely hot, such as a desert or dry sauna, not a steam bath. If those are not possible, find a place where a roaring fire is going. Such a fire could be in a fireplace or a barbecue pit or grill. Remove all of your clothes, or as much of your clothes as reasonable possible, and get as close to the heat source as possible without risking a burn. If you are on the desert, make sure that you have an extra heavy layer of sunscreen or any sensitive parts of your body which are exposed. This is especially true for the genitals, and if you are a woman, the breasts. These areas can become painful and hypersensitive when sunburned. This must be avoided. Once you are in a situation where it is uncomfortably hot, but not painfully or unbearably so, and your perspiration is freely flowing, do the relaxation ritual. This may be difficult due to the heat, but it will test you to see how well you can do this ritual. And focus on your breathing and feel the heat-laden air going in and out of your lungs. As before, imagine your entire body as nothing more than an enormous breathing apparatus. Imagine that every part of your body only has the function of breathing and nothing else. Know that your skin is a vital part of this entire system. As you physically breathe in air, imagine that every pore in your body and skin is also breathing in heat and dryness, element fire. Feel the fire course through your body, cleansing and purifying. Then as you exhale, feel it leave through your pores, taking with it the body's toxins, pains, and sufferings. Repeat the pore breathing until you have mastered it. Caution. Only do this exercise next to a real fire or in place like a desert once. Do not, under any circumstances, spend longer than 10 minutes doing this exercise in real heat. When doing this type of work, it is all too likely that you may lose your sense of time. Have an alarm set to sound after 10 minutes or have a friend come and pull you out of the heat. Immediately drink 1 or 2 large glasses of cool, not cold water. Get out or away from the heat. If you have physical problems dealing with the heat, consult an MD before doing this. This caution is for your health and safety, and neither the author nor the publisher nor the audiobook reader will be responsible for your errors in this exercise. Remember, the purpose of this exercise is to pour or breathe the magical element fire. It is not to get your burn to cinder. After you have done this exercise, once next to or in a real heat source, you may repeat it by imagining the heat. This at different times of the day and at different locations. Try it in the cool of the night and even in the rain. If you start to perspire, you are being successful. Practice this for up to a week initially, then as you will. Exercise 3. Spend a period of up to 3 minutes once a day imagining that you are the element fire. Feel the heat and your ability to transmit that heat. If you have a regular lover, ask him or her if your kisses are hotter. More on this later. Feel the dryness and, as a result, perhaps stop your perspiration if you are perspiring. Know what fire feels like and what fire is. Practice this exercise for 1 week. Exercise 4. Now that you have learned to be fire, the next step is to learn how to consciously control this magical element. Take a moment and again imagine yourself to be fire. Bring the feeling you had in the last exercise into your awareness. Next, hold your hands 9 to 12 inches apart with the palms facing each other. Visualize between your hands a bottle, a cylinder, or a small cask. Next, as you exhale, imagine all the fire element which is in you going out with your breath and being deposited in the container between your hands. 3 to 5 times should be enough to fill it. If it gets too hot to hold between your hands, move your hands farther apart. Once it has been filled, simply observe it for a short space of time, then with 3 breaths, inhale it back into yourself and return to your normal consciousness. Spend about a week with this exercise. The test. Here is the simple self-test which will allow you to learn whether or not you have become not just in unison with the magical element fire, but also if you are its master. This test is to prove something to you, not to me or anyone else. If you do not pass this test, that is okay. It merely means that you need to do more work in the above exercises. Then you can take the test again. In fact, take the test so often as you wish. Just be sure to always record the results in your magical diary. The next time you feel as if you are bursting with an overload of energy, so much that it is hard to concentrate due to the fiery energy within you, try this. Form the container of fire as described in the previous exercise. Once you have done this, visualize a large black hole in the air in front of you. Now throw the container of fire into the black hole and then see the hole close so that nothing can return. Do this black holding 3 times. Your excess energy should be gone, but you should have enough energy left to do your necessary tasks. Never do this black holding with fire more than 3 times in 1 day. Otherwise, you could be drained, that your physical body could be weakened. This could open you up to disease. The next time you're feeling less listless and have a total lack of energy, or for the matter, a lack of desire to do the necessary things in your life, form the fire container, but this time inhale all of the contents of the container. Within a few minutes, you should feel energized and revitalized. Try this instead of your morning cup of coffee. If you first find that you have too much energy, black hole the excess as already described. When you have passed both parts of the test to your satisfaction, you will know that you are the master of the magical element fire. In fact, this is the last of the 4 elements. Once you pass this test, you have passed the other 3 as well. You will be a master of the elements. To prove this to yourself, here are some suggestions to try. 1. Sit in a room which has no air circulating, light a candle and place it in the center of the room. Become one with the fire of the candle. Now move the candle flame by your will, just as you might move your arms. For many people this is surprisingly easy. 2. Become one with the moisture, water of a cloud. Now add fire to it so that it expands in all directions. The cloud should disappear. 3. On a windy day, find a hot spot such as a hill or the top of a tall building. Become one with air until you can almost feel yourself going aloft. Then start to bring some of the slowing power of earth into you and expand it into your environment. The wind should slow or cease in your area. Don't try this for the first time during a hurricane. Try it with a little breeze. Later you might want to try a storm. You can probably come up with many more experiments to test your mastery of the magical elements. Notice, however, I am suggesting rather minor phenomena, not major changes in the environment. This is for 2 reasons. First, the test needs only to prove to you that you are capable of controlling the elements. Second, causing major changes in the environment is gray magic. To affect a large area means that you are interfering with the lives of other people as well as the plans of Mother Nature. You may want a dry day for your picnic and work to end a rain shower. To the farmer awaiting rain, it could spell disaster and ruin the farmer's life. It might also increase the prices for a grocer and even result in some people having to go on welfare to pay for the increased prices of food. A magician must never take his or her actions slightly, especially when they influence or might influence the lives of others. Part 2. Now we come to the construction of the last of the elemental tools of the magician. It is perhaps the best known tool of the magician too. It is the wand. Even stage magicians use wands in their acts, and perhaps no other magical tool has caught the attention of the public more than the wand of the magician. Curiously, many stage magicians dislike the idea of real magic. In England, they do not even call it magic, but conjuring. There, a stage magician is called a conjurer, but even they represent a front of real magic. One of the most popular of magic words among stage magicians is hocus pocus. This is simply a slightly garbled version of the magical part of the Catholic Mass, where the priest holds the sacrament and says in Latin, "Hoc est corpus," this is the body. Certainly the transformation of a water into body is real magic at its highest. The wand is as closely identified with one or who practices magic as Dr. Watson is with Sherlock Holmes. Yet few people have ever seen a real ceremonial magician's fire wand. The wand is the tool for controlling or directing 2 things. 1. The magical element of fire. 2. The energy of the magician. Look at the outline below. It is the outline of the shape of a true magician's wand. Does its outline look familiar? It is quite simply an image of an erect phallus. The energy mentioned above is the psychosexual energy which you have been learning it to manipulate with the exercises and rituals in the first half of this course. Anyone who denies the psychosexual aspect of magic is either not telling the truth, is uninformed, or is not really a magician. Those who practice magic under traditions of paganism, many of whom all call themselves witches, use a dagger as their primary weapon. The name used by many pagans for this dagger is taken from a Kabbalistic book, The Greater Key of Solomon. Ceremonial magicians, on the other hand, use a wand as their primal tool. It is not, however, the fire wand, but an even superior one, which will be described later in this lesson. In the meantime, you will need to construct the fire wand. Make it out of a dowel. Make it in length and thickness you desire, but remember it must fit in your altar. Some lumber yards or hardware stores may have an end piece for furniture known generally as a finial, called an acorn. Attaching this to the end of the wand will yield a perfect shape. Otherwise, you can carve a block of balsa wood and attach it to the end of the wand with a glue and a dowel pin. If you have access to a lathe, it can be carved out of a thicker dowel. If you use 2 pieces of wood joined with glue, use 2 or 3 extra undercoats and then give it several coats of bright and red paint. The multiple coats of paint will help to hold the pieces together. Let this paint dry very well. Paint A bright yellow strip 1/2 to 1 inch wide around the circumference of the wand at the base and at the bottom of the acorn section of the wand. Divide the length of the wand between the two stripes into the 3 equal sections and separate those sections with 2 more stripes. Thus, there should be a total of 4 yellow stripes and 3 sections of a red paint, plus the top of the acorn. See the diagram. Of the fire wand, the acorn section should be denoted with the elongated yellow yuds, the Hebrew letters also shown below. There should be a total of 3 yuds, elongated yud. Finally, on the next page, you will find a list of the Hebrew names and sigils which should be painted on the red parts of the shaft of the wand with bright emerald green paint. If there is not enough room, you can also use the red section on the acorn. When finished, use several coats of varathine-like product to protect the finish. Some people insist that there should be a magnetized wire running the length of the wand. This is exceedingly difficult to do as it requires the drilling of a very long hole or splitting the wand and gluing it back together. If you wish to include the wire, you might try getting a hollow piece of cane and putting in the wire, or you could use a lightweight pipe. Then fill the remaining space with a combination of glue and sawdust. The north end of the magnetized wire, it repels the north pole of the compass, should be at the plain end of the wand. The wire should extend only 1/16 inch at the flat end and through the acorn finial or carved end. Actually, the wire is not necessary. It represents the tube of energy which also goes through the phallus. While it can help direct the energy, shape of the fire wand itself is more than adequate. For more information on how to construct the wand, you can read Wang's The Secret Temple. Part 3. So far, we have spent time dealing with the Sephiroth and very little discussing the paths on the Tree of Life. Many books on the Kabbalah spend almost their entire length covering the Sephiroth and ignoring or slighting the paths. This is not surprising because there is a very logical reason for the paths being so hard to pin down. The Sephiroth, in a sense, are way stations for the energy of divinity, Ryush Elohim, as it descends toward the microcosm, which is our universe and our world. As this energy travels through the Tree of Life, it changes and evolves, although its inner essence remains constant. By the time it reaches Malkut, it is at a level where humanity can deal with it on a day-to-day basis. Just as the current punctuated equilibrium theory of evolution proposes jumps in evolution rather than changes at a steady rate, so too does the energy traversing the Tree of Life change neither slowly nor evenly. In its path from its ultimate pure form to the physical manifestations around us, it changes until it reaches the utmost point of a certain level of quality. Then it goes in a different direction. In this diagram above, you can see how a form of vibrational energy color changes from white to black. It can definitely be said that within the circle labeled white, it looks white, and in the circle labeled black, it appears black. But what happens about in between? Where is pure gray magic? Where is it light gray? To complicate matters even more, two people seeing the same shade of gray might label it differently. This is exactly the problem faced when trying to understand and describe the paths of the tree. The Sephiroth in some Kabbalistic literature are called the vessels. These vessels hold the energy of divinity until it reaches a maximum in some direction. As an example, the Sephiroth Geburah represents the ultimate manifestation of the strength of the Godhead as typified by the astrological qualities of the planet Mars. Page after page could be spent discussing the Sephiroth strengths of divinity, but how does one describe changing energy between strength and beauty, between Geburah and Teferet? It is far more difficult. It is for this lesson that a good tarot reading can be done using only the major arcana of the tarot. They are associated with the paths on the tree and thus demonstrate the changing energies in a person's life. The minor arcana are associated with the Sephiroth and are thus more related to the static situations. The minor arcana adds more detail. The major arcana gives more information as to the direction of a person's life and the forces in play about that life. The very fact that the paths represent changing energy patterns make them difficult to describe. Later, through the process known as path working, you will learn for yourself the changing qualities of the paths and how they apply to you. For now, however, we will merely look at some of the important correspondences for the paths of the Tree of Life. In pages 245, 247, and 249, you will find a list of Kabbalistic correspondences for the paths. There are 22 paths numbered from 11 to 32. The first 10 paths are exactly the 10 Sephiroth. This, then, points out a preliminary problem in dealing with the paths. Their numerations, as I have said, the paths are traditionally numbered from 11 to 32. However, each path is also associated with a Hebrew letter. Since each Hebrew letter also has an associated number, there are, so far, 2 number schemas for the paths. Notice that the unusual numbering system for the Hebrew letters seem to be a mixture between Roman numerals and Arabic numerals we commonly used spread out. Perhaps then Hebrew or its sources is a basis for the numbers we use today. Of course, the ancient Hebrews did not have separate symbols for their numbers. Each letter also represented a number. We will discuss more of this in a later lesson, but for now it is enough to see that the 11th path is also the first of the Aleph path. The 22nd path is also the 30th or Lamed path. The 30th path is also the 200th of Resh path. Note also that the major arcana cards being associated with the paths also use their numbers to identify the paths. Thus, the 19th path is also the 8th of Strength or Strength path. The 13th path is also the 19th or Sun path. We can come up with some rather unusual looking equations. Note, when 5 of the letters occur at the end of a word, they have a different appearance and value. This is not important for our purposes here, however, which, if you know the secret, make perfect sense. Otherwise they are undecipherable. I mention this multiple numeration system here not because it is vital to this course, although we will be making good use of it later, but because so many advanced books throw numbers around left and right, and a beginner could quite easily get lost. Remember, one of the goals of this course is also to allow you to read any Kabbalistic work and, if it is logical and based on tradition, understand it. The first column of correspondences on page 245 is the path number. This followed by the number of the Hebrew letter, the Hebrew letter's name, and the way it appears. This is followed by a tradition of the meaning of each of the Hebrew letters, where I have spelled out the name of each letter. I have done so in a way that you can see how it is pronounced, as in an example of this. Zayin, meaning sword, is frequently spelled Zain. This leads to people pronouncing it Zain, which is incorrect. The next column has the number and the names of the major arcana cards of the tarot. In the final column of the first page of correspondences are the king scale colors for the paths of the Tree of Life. As you should remember, there are 4 scales of colors associated with the 4 Kabbalistic worlds. They are identified with the names of the face of the cards of the tarot: the princess, prince, queen, and king. The Sephiroths are, for our purposes, colored according to the queen scale. The paths follow the king scale colors. This keeps the inherent sexual balance within the tree. It also points to the moving energies, archetypal male of the paths, and the contained energy, archetypal female of the Sephiroth. When a tree is colored according to this combined system, it is called the Minutum Mundum, a little world. It will be an important focus of our later work, so you should consider doing one in a very large size. When so done, it is referred to as the temple diagram. Although not vital to the purpose of this course, it would certainly benefit you to color in the Tree of Life in each of the 4 scales. As to complete the list of these can be found in Regarde's The Golden Dawn or other books such as the Crowley's 777. The second page of correspondences on page 247 for the paths begins again with a list of the paths numbers. This is followed by the astrological listings of the planets and the constellation signs, thus air, water, and fire, the 3 primary elements according to the Sephiroth Yetzirah. The next column consists of various animals, both real and imaginary, associated with the planets. An anchorite was an early Christian hermit. The other animals named should be clear. Their importance to you will become obvious in later lessons. So too will the next column of magical plants. Note that associated with the 29th path of unicellular organisms, which are not animals but plants. The third page of the page correspondences on page 249 begins again with the path numbers. The next two columns, which associate stones and scents of perfumes with the paths, should be clear. The final column lists the magical tools or weapons. Going from top to bottom, we find that the girdle is listed as a magical tool. This is not a device made to hold in a too large stomach. Rather, it is an ornament which surrounds the waist and which is associated with Venus. It can be used for blindfolding and for fascination rituals. The horns are frequently worn in pagan ceremonies to represent the power of the masculine aspect of the deity. Thus, it shows outgoing archetypal masculine power. The burin is a tool like an ice pick and is used to carve talismans from wax, as well as having other carving duties. The preparations are exactly that. The time you put into preparations for a magical ritual and the time you put in studying to become a practitioner of the magical arts is in itself a magical technique. A tripod was traditionally used to support the incense burner. A furnace is here used in alchemical incense. It means a place of work. The disciplines are those which you must go through to be able to do magic. The cross of equilibrium or solar cross is a symbol of balancing of nature, a balancing of your nature. The obligation is the vow you take when you are initiated or in your personal dedication. The idea of pain being a magical tool may surprise you, but it is true. I am not talking here about flagellation or other forms of bodily abuse, although some people involve this type of pain in their magical work. The pain here is more psychological in nature. There will come a time when you will have to decide if the magical path is correct for you. If you choose the magical life, you will find that huge vistas of non-physical experiences will be open to you, along with the love of divinity showering upon your head. But most people in this world, no matter their professed spiritual beliefs, are die-hard materialists at heart. They cannot keep up with you because they will, in fact, either fear to do so or refuse to do so. As a result, you may find yourself drifting away from some friends and loved ones. This can be very painful, but those who follow spiritual magical paths must go their own way. Choose this path and you may know pain and loss, but the rewards will far exceed the costs. Why else would so many people strive to become magicians at this point? Spend a few moments studying the meaning of the hanged man before continuing with this lesson. The secret force is what is commonly known as Kundalini or Rayush or Chi. And asparagus is the device used to sprinkle sanctified water. For deeper information on these magical tools, read Crowley 777 and or his book 4 Part 2. At this time, it is not necessary to memorize these correspondences, but you should become familiar with them. In some instances, there are several associations in one category for each path. It would also be a good idea to make up several filled-in trees of life, including the correspondences with the 10 Sephiroth given in an earlier lesson. Part 4. Remember that magic is both an art and a science. In this part, we are going to be studying the basic preparations for all gray magic. So in a sense, this is the equivalent of a scientific preparation to perform an experiment. As you will see, it employs aspects of the supreme pentagram ritual learned in the last lesson. Let me repeat. What you are learning here will be useful in all of the gray magic rituals which are to follow. First, however, you need to make 5 items. For this, get 4 pieces of poster board, at least 8 1/2 times 11 inches. A bigger size would be better. Paint one bright green, another bright orange, and another bright purple, and the last bright silver. Once these have dried, paint a large bright red triangle on the green board, a bright blue triangle on the orange board. On the purple board, paint a bright yellow triangle with a line across it, parallel to the baseline of the triangle, and paint a similar figure on the silver board with the flat, not glossy, black paint. See the diagram on page 251. These are going to be your 4 elemental tablets. Once dry, they should be framed and hung in your temple. The one with the red fire triangle should be on the south, with the one with the blue water triangle should be in the west. The one with the yellow air symbol should be on the east. The card with the black earth symbol should be in the north, unless otherwise noted. Have these on the walls in all future rituals, including your daily rituals. The last of the 5 items you will need to make is the Tablet of Union. This comes from the magical system known as the Enochian. This system was discovered by Dr. John Dee, astrologer to Queen Elizabeth I, and his assistant, the mysterious Rogus Edward Kelly. Kelly, who always wore a hat pulled over his head to hide the fact that his ears had been cut off in punishment for a crime, functioned as Dee's seer in a series of magical experiments in 1581. The result of those experiments is the much talked about and little understood system known as Enochian. I do not claim to be anything close to an expert in this particular system, but I do know that certain rituals which incorporate Enochian symbolism and techniques are very powerful. There seems to be a magical quality to the very sounds of the mysterious words. The Tablet of the Union represents the fact that your altar functions as a place where the 4 magical elements meet, come together, and are unified. To make it, you simply get a heavy piece of paper or cardboard and make a rectangle 4 units tall by 5 units wide. I do not specify this as the size of the units because you need to make it fit in the center of your altar. Outline the spaces so the card is filled by 20 boxes, 5 across and 4 up and down. This should be done with the very dark black ink. The paper should be white. Fill in the card as below. The letters, like the lines, should be as dark as possible. EXARP is the Enochian or angelic name for the spirit of air. HCOMA is the one for the spirit of water. NANTA is the name for the spirit of earth, which leaves BITOM as the name for the spirit of fire. If you can, have the Tablet of Union laminated with a plastic coating or put in a small frame. Set up your altar with the Tablet of Union in the center, so when you are behind the altar, west of the altar facing east, you can read the tablet. On each side of the tablet should be one of the elemental tools you have made. To the east, place the air dagger. To the south, place the fire wand. To the west, place the water cup. And to the north, place the earth pentacle. There should be water in the cup. You will also need another dagger with which to do the LBRP. Candles to light the area are also nice, along with some incense burning. These items can be placed on tables around your area or on the floor. Be sure they will harm nothing nor start a fire. Prepare yourself to do this ritual as described for the LBRP and begin the Watchtower ritual. Step 1. If you have a bell, sound it 10 times thusly. Each mark represents a striking of the bell, so that in this case you have a 3-4-3 pattern. If you do not have a bell, sound the pattern by striking the top of the altar with the end of the handle of the dagger you are going to use for the LBRP. Then, in a loud, imperious tone, say, Hecas este bebeloa. This is pronounced Kakas Haikas este bebe oi. It is a traditional way of announcing that a ritual is about to begin, and those, both physical and non-physical, not entitled to witness it should leave the area. Step 2. Sound the bell or knock once, then do the LBRP. Step 3. Sound the bell or knock 2 times, then do the BRH, the opening by Watchtower. Step 4, sound the bell, knock 9 times. Step 5, always walking clockwise, go to the south of the altar, take the fire wand and wave it 3 times, once each to the left, right, then the center, while facing the south and the elemental sigil there. Now hold the wand with the pointing end pointed up over your head and slowly walk once around the room in a clockwise direction, saying, "And when after all the phantoms have vanished, thou shalt see thy holy and formless fire, that fire which darts and flashes through the hidden depths of the universe, hear thou the voice of fire." By this time you should be back at the south. Facing in that direction, trace a large circle, clockwise in the air. Visualize it golden. In the circle, draw a bright blue invoking pentagram of fire, as described in the last lesson. Form the sign for Leo, the fire cherub in the center. Now point to the center with the wand and say, "O e pe te a pe doke," which is pronounced "O e pa te a pe doke." The words are 3 holy names for fire in Enochian. Now hold the wand up in the air and say, "In the names and letters of the great southern quadrangle, I invoke ye, ye angels of the watchtower of the south." Now, spend a few moments visualizing and feeling the pure elemental fire-filled energy from the side of your circle. Replace the wand on the altar. Step 6. Move to the west and take the water cup from the altar. Face the west and sprinkle some of the water with your fingers to the left, right, and middle of the elemental symbols which is there. Hold the cup up on high and circumambulate once in a clockwise direction, saying, "So therefore first the priest whom governeth the works of fire must sprinkle with the lustral water of the loud resounding sea." Now that you're back facing west, use the cup to trace a large golden circle in the air, and inside it draw an electric blue invoking water pentagram. In the center of this, draw the eagle cherub, point to the center saying, "Mpe ha arselga eo." These holy Enochian names, ruling water, are pronounced Empaha ad sel ge ol. Then, holding the cup high in the air, say, "In the name of the letters of the great western quadrangle, I invoke ye, ye angels of the watchtower of the west." Now we'll spend a few moments visualizing the feeling, the pure elemental watery energy from this side of your magical circle. Replace the cup on the altar. Step 7. Walk clockwise to the east of the altar, taking up the air dagger and turn outwards to where your elemental sigil is placed. Stake the dagger 3 times, once to the left, right, and center of the elemental sign. Hold the dagger on high and walk around the altar once, saying, "Such a fire existeth, extending through the rushing of air, or even a fire formless, whence cometh the image of a voice, or even a flashing light, abounding, revolving, whirling forth, crying aloud." By this time you should be back at the east, facing east, using the dagger to trace a large golden circle. Inside the circle, draw a bright blue invoking pentagram of air. In the space in the center of that pentagram, draw the sign of Aquarius, representing the air cherub, with the dagger point to the center, and say, "O roi baha ozid pe," which is pronounced Oro eba ha'a ozid pe. Now hold the dagger on high with its point up and say, "In the name and letters of the great eastern quadrangle, I invoke ye, ye angels of the watchtower of the east." Now spend a few moments appreciating the power of pure elemental air coming from this direction. Return the dagger to its place. Step 8. Walk clockwise to the north of the altar. Take the pentacle and, facing north, shake the pentacle 3 times, once left, once right, and center, toward the earth symbol outside the magical circle. Remember to hold it up by the black section. Now hold the pentacle on high and say, as you circumambulate once, Stoop not down into that darky splendid world wherein continually lieth a faithless death, and Hades wrapped in gloom, delighting in unintangible images, presumptuous winding, a black ever rolling abyss, ever espousing a body unluminous, formless, and void. On returning to the north, use the pentacle to make a golden circle as before, only place inside it a bright blue invoking pentagram of earth. Inside of that, place the image of the earth Carub, which is the astrological sign of Taurus. Point to the center with the pentacle and say, Imode al Hektega, pronounced Imode al Hektega. Again, hold the pentacle on high and say, in the names and letters of the great northern quadrangle, I invoke ye angels of the watchtower of the north. Now spend a few moments sensing the great earthly power which comes from this direction. Replacing the pentacle, move in a clockwise direction to the west and face east from behind the altar. Step 9. Over the altar and the table of union, make the sign known as the rending of the veil. This is done by making the signs of the interior, left foot forward as hands thrust out, but do it with the palms together. And then separate your hands as if you were parting some curtains or rending a veil. Say, this means, I reign over you, says the God of justice. 3 magical names who rule over the tablet of union, move there over more, and appear upon the mysterious of creation, balance, righteousness, and truth. It is pronounced in this manner. This bold-faced words of power should be vibrated in the usual manner. Step 10. Now say, I invoke ye angels of the celestial sphere whose dwelling is the invisible. Ye are the guardians of the gates of the universe, by ye also the guardians of this mystic sphere. Keep far, remove the evil and the imbalanced. Strengthen and inspire me so that I may persevere unsullied this abode of this mysterious of eternal gods. Let my sphere be pure and holy so that I may enter in and become a partaker of the secrets of the light of divine. Now spend a few moments trying to sense and balance the 4 magical elements here at the center of your circle. Step 11. Now move to the northeast corner, facing outward, and say, the visible sun is the dispenser of light to the earth. Let me therefore form a vortex in the chamber that the invisible sun of the spirit may shine therein from above. Step 12. Now circumambulate 3 times around your circle. Each time you pass the east, make the sign of the interior in the direction you are going. This is, you don't point to the east to give the sign, you do it straight ahead of you. As you move around, visualize and feel the building up of a powerful vortex of energy. Some people like to do this quickly, others like to form the circles of power slowly. Try both and see which is more efficient for you. After you make the 3rd pass of the east, go to the west of the altar and face east. Step 13. Give the sign of the interior and say, Holy art thou, Lord of the universe. Give the sign of the interior again and say, Holy art thou, whom nature hath not formed. Give the sign of the interior once again and say, Holy art thou, the vast and mighty one, Lord of the light of the darkness. Now give the sign of silence. Stamp left foot as you bring your left forefinger to your lips as it telling someone to hush. Step 14. Do your gray magic. Step 15. When you have finished your magical work, say, Unto thee, soul wise, soul eternal, and soul merciful one, be the praise and glory forever, who has permitted me, who now standeth humbly before thee, to enter this far into the sanctuary of the mysteries. Not unto me, but unto thy name by the glory. Let the influence of thy divine ones descend upon my head, and teach me the values of self-sacrifice, so that I shrink not in the hour of trial, but that thus might name my be riding on high, and my genius stand in the presence of the holy ones. The closing by Watchtower. Step 16. Now circumbobulate 3 times counterclockwise, giving the sign of the enterer in the direction you are going as you pass east. As you do this reverse circumbobulation, feel the energy you have gathered dispense. Do the LBRP for step 17, and for step 18, do the BRH. For step 19, say, I now release any spirits that may have been imprisoned by this ceremony. Depart in peace to your abodes and habitations, and go with the blessings of Yahshua Yehovah Shah. Vibrate the above 2 names. Step 20. Ring bell 10 times, and then say, I now declare this temple duly closed. Knock, do not ring the bell once. Then the ritual is over. Now before you tear these pages into little bits and decide to abandon magic forever because it is too complicated, stop for just a second and notice that this time I have not included a summary. This is because for this ritual you should make up your own summaries. Instead of using regular sized paper, I used 4x5 index cards. I was able to fit the entire ritual on both sides of these 3 cards. It looks much longer than it really is because of all the added instructions I have given you here. In practice, it takes little more than 10 minutes of the LBRP and BRH memorized. When you are making up your summaries of cards, be sure to go over how the invoking pentagrams are made. This was described in the last lesson. The Watchtower ritual is a potent preparation for any magical ritual. Some of you may be familiar with the version published by Israel Regardie in his book The Ceremonial Magic. I must warn you, however, that the book is filled with many errors. This can be verified by checking what is printed in the book against both Regardie's The Golden Dawn and Laycock's Complete Enochian Dictionary. For those of you that are looking for a good introduction to the Golden Dawn version of Enochian magic, I suggest Gerald Schuler's book, Enochian Magic. As long as you stay with the Enochian material as presented in this course, you will be able to use it safely and efficiently. The material, as presented here, have been tested and practiced for almost 100 years. If you investigate this form of magic further, I urge extreme caution. Some people claim that the reason Aleister Crowley was unsuccessful in his lifetime was because of the errors he may have made when doing the Enochian calls form of this magical system. In any event, the main thrust of this course is toward the Kabbalah and not Enochiana. At this point in your studies, it would be a good idea to practice this ritual at least once a week. Notice that I said practice this ritual, not perform it. Separate it into sections and go over each section several times until you are very familiar with it. It would be best if you could memorize this ritual, as it will be a major focus in all of the practical uses of gray magic from this work, which is as follows. At this point, however, it is not necessary to perform it and work with it over and over as you should have been doing with the LBRP, the BRH, the middle pillar ritual, the circumambulation of the body of light, and the tarot contemplation ritual. This is because 2 other things are needed. First, the instruments and tools need the appropriate preparations. In a sense, they need to be initiated or dedicated to the magical service. Second, a final ultimate magical tool is needed. This ultimate tool must have some sort of universality in its nature so that it can virtually be used for any purpose, and as opposed to the elemental tools, which represent certain singular qualities. It is with this ultimate tool that the 4 elemental weapons will be energized, charged, and consecrated to their sacred magical tasks. More on this tool in a moment. Meanwhile, it would be a good idea to spend some time thinking about how the Watchtower ritual could be done with a group. The exact division of parts must be determined by the number of people who will be working with you, but if you have at least 4 people in your group, each person can represent one of the elements throughout the ceremony. If there are 5 people, 4 can represent the elements, and the 5th can be the other section of the ritual, which are not totally related to the one of the elements. That one person should sit in the east when not actively involved in the ceremony. This person can be the leader of the group, at least during the ceremony, and should not take part in the circumbobulations. This person represents spiritual wisdom and light. Light rises like the sun from the east, so this person representing light sits while the others circumbobulate. As they pass, they salute with the sign of the interior in the direction they are going, not to the person. The respect is toward the philosophy and the secret science of light, not to a person. Part 5. There is virtually no way to make a single tool which can work with the 4 elemental forces. Water could counteract the energies of the elemental fire, just as air and earth also antithetical to each other. Therefore, to make the truly universal tool, another basis is needed. A possible thought would be to make a tool based on the tarot cards. The problem with this is that it would require a minimum of 22 and possibly 22 major arcana plus the 1 of each suit, or more sections. Such a tool would be either too large to be practical or have symbols of sections too small to be useful. The solution to this problem is to use astrological symbolism. This brings our symbols down to 12, one for each of the signs of the zodiac. To this we add 2 more for practical purposes, as you will see. The golden dawn associated with this Egyptian symbolism for the design of a fairly difficult to construct lotus wand. By removing only the Egyptian aspect, the lotus flower, we are left with our main tool for the performance of practical or gray magic, the rainbow wand. Construction of the rainbow wand. 1. Start with the piece of dowel, 3 divided by 8 inches to 3 divided by 4 inches in diameter. Judge the best diameter by holding various dowels and sensing which size feels best in your right hand. Even if you are left-handed, cut your chosen dowel to 36.5 inches in length, 36.25 inches in length, with sandpaper around the edge so that the final length is exactly 36 inches. Now slightly sand the rest of your future wand to take off any surface dirt or uneven surfaces. Give the entire wand a white undercoat. Follow the directions on your on the paints. Wait the appropriate length of the time then give it a second of white undercoat again. 2. Measure 7 inches from one of the ends. At this point, make a dark but narrow black line around the wand. 2 inches further from this line, 9 inches from the end. Make another black line, continuing making thin black lines until you have drawn a total of 13 lines. The image of your wand at this point is that you have at one end a piece of 7 inches, at the other end a space of slightly under 5 inches, between these two areas 12 spaces of 2 inches each. A simple way to get straight lines around your wand is by taking a small card, wrapping it around the circumference of the wand at the appropriate area and using the edge of the card for a guide. 3. Paint the 7 inches the bright white you can find. Paint the 5-inch spaces the darkest black you can find. Paint the rest of the rainbow wand as illustrated below. 4. Finish by coating the colors with a protective coat such as Varathane. In fact, give it several coats of the clear protective. Also, try to find the brightest colors possible for painting this wand. Each color should positively glow. Preliminary preparations of the rainbow wand. 1. When doing your daily ritual practice, hold the rainbow wand by the white section while doing the middle pillar ritual and the circulation of the body of light. 2. At this point, always hold the rainbow wand vertically. The white end should be up, the black end should be down. 3. Upon completion of this practice, wrap the rainbow wand in white silk or cotton. Do not use wool or synthetics. Place the wand in a safe place where no one else would touch it. 4. It would also be a good idea to sleep with the rainbow wand in your bed next to you. Make sure the white end of the wand is toward your head. 5. It is in these ways that the wand slowly absorbs the energy you have been controlling and becomes a magical part of you. Similarly, you become a magical part of it. Magically, it more than represents you, it is your magical counterpart. The symbolism of the rainbow wand is both obvious and deep. First, we see that white, the color used to represent the element of spirit, also undercoats the entire wand. It is the basis for everything, even the darkness at the other end of the wand. If there was no light, how would you tell when there is black or darkness? Second, notice the color spectrum. The rainbow only occupies the center part of the wand. In a similar manner, the wand, as a representation of our magical power, takes us beyond the physical realms represented by the visible spectrum. Third, the number of black lines is 13. The number of unity according to Gematria. As such, it also represents a link to the unitary divinity to God. Once you have spent at least 1 month working with your rainbow wand as described above, you will be ready to consecrate it to a magical purpose. Be sure you work it for at least 1 month before doing the following concentration. The concentration of the fire wand. Step 1. Do the watchtower ritual up to step 14. Your rainbow wand should be resting on the altar with other tools. Its white end should be facing the east. Imagine that you are standing on the face of a clock. 12 faces east, 3 faces south, 6 faces west, and 9 faces north. Facing east takes the rainbow wand by the red band in your left hand. Since this belongs to Aries, a fire sign, take the tool of fire, the fire wand, in your right hand. Hold both above you and say, "The heaven is above and the earth is below. Between the light and the dark to vibrate the colors of life, I supplicate the powers and forces governing the nature, place, and authority of the sign Aries by the majesty and the divine name Yud-He-Vav-He, with which in earth, life, and language I ascribe the letter He, to which is allotted the symbolic tribe of God, and over which is the angel Melchizedek, to bestow this present day and hour and confirm their mystic and potent influence upon the red band of this rainbow wand, which I hereby dedicate to purity and to occult work. May my grasp upon it strengthen me in the work of the nature and attributes of Aries." A. The number refers to the order in which the invocations are performed. B. The color refers to the end of the band of color in the rainbow wand which you hold while doing each invocation. C. Tool indicates the elemental tool in the right hand of each invocation. D. Yud-He-Vav-He shows the permutations of the holy tetragrammaton. The source of these permutations is the Seth Yetzirah, and they are directly related to the astrological signs. Each Y is pronounced Yud, each H is pronounced He, each V is pronounced Vav. E. The names of the Hebrew tribes and the appropriate angels are fairly clear. Remember, CH sounds like the German Ach. F. It will probably be easiest to make up 12 cards, each with the appropriate words filled in for doing the 12 invocations so far in the ritual. And G. Remember to turn 1 number on the clock for each invocation. Step 3. Now visualize the forces of the nature of Aries descending from all around you into the rainbow wand. When you sense this has occurred, or after 3 minutes, replace the fire wand on the altar. Consult any basic book on astrology for more on the qualities of the sign. Step 4. Move your left hand down to the next strip of the color on the rainbow wand. It is red to orange. Turn to face the direction of the number 1 on the face of the imaginary clock upon which you stand. Take the appropriate elemental weapon according to the list on page 263. Now repeat the invocation from step 2, however change the capitalized words for the appropriate words from the list on the page of 263. Step 5. Once you have completed the 12 invocations to the powers associated with the signs of the zodiac, you should again be facing east. Place the rainbow wand on the altar with the white end pointing towards the east. Raise your hands and say, "O great goddess of the forces of nature, great one who has been known by 1,000,000 names since before remembered time, let thy influence descend and consecrate this rainbow wand which I dedicate to thee for the performance of the works of the magical light." Step 6. Wrap your charged and consecrated rainbow wand in the silk or cotton cloth which you have for this purpose. From this moment on, do not allow anyone else to touch it. Do not unwrap it except when you are going to need it for magical purposes. Should someone else handle it, it would be a good idea to redo this entire ritual. Step 7. Now close this ritual by doing the closing by watchtower, steps 15 through 20 of the watchtower ritual. Your rainbow wand is now ready for magical use. Take a while and make sure that you have the time to do the above ritual correctly. Do not rush it. Also, do not go on to the next section until you have prepared your rainbow wand as above, for the next part of this lesson uses the consecrated and empowered rainbow wand to charge and consecrate your magical tools. On page 266, you will find a diagram of the altar layout for the consecration of the rainbow wand ritual. You will usually have the elemental tools or weapons placed in the same position for all magical rituals. The dagger should be to the east, the wand to the south, the cup to the west, the pentacle to the north. Candles should be preferably in the color of their quadrant: yellow to the east, red to the south, and blue to the west, and black, brown, or green to the north, or else white. Part 6. I strongly suggest that the following rituals of consecration not be performed on the same night. Rather, do them on 4 consecutive nights or one a night on 2 consecutive weekends. At this point, there is no real rush to complete these consecrations, as the next lesson will be centered around mental magic and will not require the tools. However, your tools really will need to be completed and consecrated before the 8th lesson of this course. All 4 of these rituals should only be performed during the waxing of the moon. Consecration ritual for the pentacle. Step 1. Do the watchtower ritual up to step 14. Step 2. Face north and hold your pentacle in the left hand by the black section. Always remember to move and pivot clockwise within your temple unless told otherwise. In your right hand, hold the consecrated rainbow wand by the red-orange stripe. The stripe associated with the torus represented elemental earth. The pentacles should be held horizontally as you vibrate each magical word, title, or name. Trace in the air above the pentacle the Hebrew letters and the sigils which are on the tool. If you have any questions about this, go back to the lesson which showed you how to make the pentacle. The symbols are drawn over the tool with the earth, black, one end of the rainbow wand, representing the making physical of the spiritual forces. These spiritual forces are, of course, represented by the white end of the rainbow wand. Thus you are sending pure magical energy down into the pentacle. Say, O thou who art timeless, thou who art mother and father of all things, thou who dost clothe thyself with the forces of nature as we don a robe, by thy holy divine name, vibrate as you trace the word and sigil, Adonai, whereto thou art known in this quarter by the secret name. Vibrate and trace the word sigil, Tizapon. I beseech thee to grant me strength and inner vision as I reach for inner wisdom within thy hidden light. Step 3. Continue saying, I humbly request, as a student of thy mystic laws, that thou mayest cause thy archangel vibrate and trace, O Rael, to guide me on my holy journey. Please also direct thy angel vibrate and trace for Laka to watch over me and protect me as I traverse the mystic pathways of the universe. Step 4. Continue saying, may the rule of the earth, the powerful prince, vibrate the trace, Kerub, by the permission of the Eternal One, increase and strengthen the secret forces and virtues of this pentacle so that I may use it to perform those magical rituals for which it has been fashioned. It is to this end that I now perform this rite of consecration on the presence divine of a vibrating trace Adonai. Step 5. Place the rainbow wand on the altar with the white end pointing east. Pick up the dagger you used to do the LBRP and again return to the north. Slowly trace a large earth-invoking pentagram, see lesson 5, in the air over the pentacle in your left hand while saying, by the secret holy name of God, born upon the banners of the north, vibrate, do not trace, Imordial Hectataga, I summon thee, O great king of the north, vibrate and do not trace, Ik Zod Hechal, pronounced Ik Ka Zod Ha Hai Kala, to be here now to increase the effect of this ritual whose purpose is to consecrate this magical pentacle, give it power anew to be more than capable in all works of earth so that by it I may find a strong defense and powerful weapon to direct the spirits of the elements as is directed by the one whom naught but silence can express. Step 6. Replace the dagger on the altar and again return to the north. Hold the pentacle at chest level. Facing outward, say, O mighty princess of the great north quadrangle, I invoke you and ask that ye hear my petition and be here now. Bestow upon this pentacle the strength and purity whereof ye are masters, so that its outward and material form may be a true symbol of its invoked inner and spiritual force. Step 7. Circumambulate in a clockwise direction to the south. Hold the pentacle above your head. Facing out from the center of the circle and toward the south, say, O thou glorious angel, vibrate Na-A-O-M, pronounced Na-A-O-M. Thou who rulest the fiery aspects of earth, I invoke thee. Be here now. Bestow upon this pentacle those magical powers which thou dost rule, that with it I may also govern those spirits over whom thou art Lord. Step 8. Wait in the south for a few moments until you sense that your request has been fulfilled, or 3 minutes have passed. Then move to the west and hold the pentacle in the same way as in the south. Only pointing to the west, say, O thou glorious angel, vibrate in Fra, pronounced in Fra. Thou who rulest this watery aspect of earth, I invoke thee. Be here now. Bestow upon this pentacle those magical powers which thou dost rule, that with it I may also govern the spirits over whom thou art Lord. Step 9. Wait in the west for a few moments until you sense that your request has been fulfilled, or 3 minutes have passed. Then move to the east and hold the pentacle facing east in a manner as before. Say, O thou glorious angel, vibrate in Bozada, pronounced in Bozoda. Thou who rulest the airy aspects of the earth, I invoke thee. Be here now. Bestow upon this pentacle those magical powers which thou dost rule, that with it I may govern those spirits over whom thou art Lord. Step 10. Wait in the east for a few moments until you sense that your request has been filled, or 3 minutes have passed. Then move to the north and hold the pentacle as before. Say, O thou glorious angel, vibrate in Ro'ahim, pronounced in Ro'ahim. And thou who rulest the densest aspects of the earth, I invoke thee. Be here now. Bestow upon this pentacle those magical powers which thou dost rule, that with it I may also govern those spirits who over whom thou art Lord. Step 11. Now do the LBRP with 2 differences. A. Use the pentacle instead of the dagger. B. Trace the invoking pentagrams of earth instead of the banishing pentagrams of earth. In step 12. Replace the now charged and consecrated pentacles in its appropriate place on the altar. Finish by performing the steps 15 through 20 of the Watchtower ritual. The rite is finished. Before leaving the circle, be sure to wrap the pentacle in a piece of material made of cotton or silk. It should be black, however browns or greens or the universal pure white will do. Note that in these consecration rituals, you should vibrate the names of the trace the Hebrew letters and or sigils when using the rainbow wand. When not using the rainbow wand, you should vibrate the names but not trace the sigils. If you do not sense that your request for empowering the tools have been answered within 3 minutes, it does not mean that this has not happened. It only means that you are as yet not psychically aware enough to perceive it. If you continue with your daily ritual work, you will open to impressions from other levels of existence. On the following evening, or when you have planned to do it, perform the consecration ritual for the dagger. Note, this is for the air dagger, not for the dagger used to perform the LBRP. Also, compare this ritual to the previous one for performance information such as which words to vibrate and when to trace sigils. I will be limiting those notes in this and the remaining 2 rituals. Consecration ritual for the dagger. Step 1. Do the Watchtower ritual up to step 14. Step 2. Face east and hold your air dagger in your left hand. In your right hand, hold the rainbow wand by the orange stripe. This stripe is associated with the Gemini and elemental air. The air dagger should be held horizontally. The Hebrew and sigils are traced in the air over it with the black end of the rainbow wand. Say, O thou who art timeless, thou who art mother and father of all things, thou who dost clothe thyself with the forces of nature as we don a robe, by thy holy and divine name, Yud-He Vav-He, whereto thou art known in this quarter by the secret name Mitzrach, I beseech thee to grant me strength and inner vision as I search for inner wisdom within thy hidden light. Step 3. Continue saying, I humbly request as a student of thy mystic laws that thou mayest cause thy archangel Raphael to guide me on my holy journey. Please also direct thy angel Chasan to watch over me as I traverse the mystic pathway of the universe. Step 4. Continue saying, May the ruler of air, the powerful Prince Ariel, by permission of the Eternal One, increase and strengthen the sector forces and virtues of this dagger so that I may use it to perform those magical rituals for which it has been fashioned. It is to this end that I now perform this rite of consecration in the presence divine of Yud-He Vav-He. Step 5. Replace the rainbow wand on the altar, pick up the dagger used by doing the LBRP in your right hand, and move to the east. Slowly trace a large air-invoking pentagram, see Lesson 5, in the air over the air dagger which is still on your left hand, while saying, by the three holy names of God, born upon the banners of the east, O Re-Iba, O Azpe, O Ro-E-Ba-Ha, A-O Zodpe, I summon thee, O great king of the east, Bate Ivaha, to be here now, to increase the effect of this ritual whose purpose it is to consecrate this magical dagger. Give it power anew, to be more than capable in all works of air, so that by it I may find a strong sense of defense and powerful weapon to direct the spirits of the elements as is dictated by the one whom naught but silence can express. Step 6. Replace the dagger used by the LBRP with the altar and return to the east. Hold the air dagger point up at chest level and say, O mighty princess of the eastern great quadrangle, I invoke you and ask that you hear my petition and be here now. Bestow upon this dagger the strength and purity whereof ye are masters, so that its outward and material form may be a true symbol of its invoked inner and spiritual force. Step 7. Circumambulate to the south, hold the air dagger point up over your head, and say, O thou resplendent angel Exjazda, thou who rules the fiery abodes of air, I invoke thee and ask that thou mayest hear my petition and be here now. Confer upon this dagger and those magical powers which thou dost rule, that with it I may also govern those spirits over whom thou art Lord. Step 8. Move to the west and again hold the air dagger on high and say, O thou resplendent angel, Eichpoda, thou who rulest the watery abodes of air, I invoke thee and ask that thou hear my petition and be here now. Confer upon this dagger those magical powers which thou dost rule, that with I may be govern those spirits over whom thou art Lord. Step 9. Move to the east and hold the air dagger on high. Point up and say, O thou resplendent angel, Erazdola, who rulest the abodes of pure and permanenting air, I invoke thee and ask that thou hear my petition and be here now. Confer upon his dagger those magical powers which thou dost rule, that with it I may also govern those spirits over whom thou art Lord. Step 10. Move to the north and hold the air dagger as before. Say, O thou resplendent angel Etenbera, thou who rulest the densest abodes of air, I invoke thee and ask that thou hear my petition and be here now. Confer upon this dagger those magical powers which thou dost rule, that with it I may also govern those spirits over whom thou art Lord. Step 11. Now do the LBRP with two differences. A. Use the air dagger instead of the usual dagger. And B. Trace the invoking pentagram of air rather than the banishing pentagram of earth. Step 12. Replace the now charged and consecrated air dagger in its appropriate place in the altar. Finish by performing steps 15 through 20 of the Watchtower ritual. The rite is finished. Before leaving the circle, be sure to write the air dagger in a piece of material. Wrap it in a piece of material made of cotton or silk. It should be yellow, but the universal white will do. Once consecrated, let no one else touch your air dagger. Consecration ritual for the chalice. Step 1. Do the opening by Watchtower. The Watchtower ritual steps 1 through 14. Step 2. Take the cup in your left hand and hold the rainbow wand by its amber band with your right hand. The amber band is associated with the astrological sign Cancer and is the elemental water. Hold the chalice in a normal fashion and again use the black end of the rainbow wand to trace the letters and sigils in the air above the cup. Say, O thou who art timeless, thou who art mother and father of all things, thou who dost clothe thyself with the forces of nature as we don a robe, by thy holy and divine name El, whereto thou art known in this quarter by the secret name Me'erab, I beseech thee to grant me strength and inner vision as I search for inner wisdom within thy hidden light. Step 3. Continue saying, I humbly request as a student of thy mystic laws that thou mayest cause thy archangel Gabriel to guide me on my holy journey. Please also direct thy angel Talahad to watch over me and protect me as I traverse the mystic pathways of the universe. Step 4. Continue saying, may the ruler of water, the powerful prince Tharsis, by permission of the Eternal One, increase and strengthen the secret forces and virtues of this chalice, so that I may use it to perform those magical rituals for which it has been fashioned. It is to this end that I now perform this rite of consecration in the presence of the divine of El. Step 5. Place the rainbow wand on the altar as before and pick up the dagger used in the LBRP. Move to the west with the dagger. Slowly trace a large white invoking pentagram, see Lesson 5, in the air over the cup while saying, by the 3 secret holy names of God born upon the banner of the west, in Pehe Arsergado, I summon thee, O great king of the west, Era Aje Osal, so be here now. To increase the effect of this ritual, whose purpose is to consecrate this magical chalice, give it power anew to be more than capable in all works of water, so that by it I may find a strong defense and powerful weapon to direct the spirits of the elements as is dictated by the one whom naught but silence can express. Step 6. Replace the dagger on the altar and return to the west. Face outward, hold the chalice at chest level, and say, O mighty princes of the great western quadrangle, I invoke you and ask that you hear my petition and be here now. Bestow upon this chalice the strength and purity whereof ye are masters, so that its outward and material form may be a true symbol of its invoked and inner and spiritual force. Step 7. Circumbobulate to the south and hold the cup on high. Say, O thou powerful angel, Henolrex, thou who rulest the fiery waters, I invoke thee. Be here now. Endue this chalice with those magic powers which thou dost rule, that with it I may also govern those spirits over whom thou art Lord. Step 8. Move to the west, hold the cup on high, and say, O thou powerful angel Hetadema, thou who rules the pure and fluid waters, I invoke thee. Be here now, endure this chalice with those magical powers which thou dost rule, that with it I may also govern those spirits over whom thou art Lord. Step 9. Move to the east, hold the cup on high, and say, O thou powerful angel Hetachda, thou who rulest the airy waters, I invoke thee. Be here now, endure this chalice with those magical powers which thou dost rule, that with it I may also govern those spirits over whom thou art Lord. Circumambulate to the north, hold the cup on high, and say, O thou powerful angel, O Magickal, Magickal, thou who rulest the dense qualities of water, I invoke thee. Be here now. Endue this chalice with those magical powers which thou dost rule, that with it I may also govern those spirits over whom thou art Lord. Step 11. Now do the LBRP with two differences. A. Use the cup instead of the usual dagger. B. Trace the invoking pentagram of water instead of the usual banishing pentagram of earth. Step 12. Replace the now charged and consecrated chalice in its appropriate place on the altar. Finish by performing the closing by the watchtower. Step 15 through 20 of the watchtower ritual. When finished, wrap the cup in a piece of cotton or silk. It should be blue in color, but while white will do. Allow no one else to touch it. The rite is finished. Finally, we move to the last of our consecration rites. While it is true that continual usage of the magical tools will have the effect of charging and consecrating them, it is also true that doing these rituals, even if you only do them once in your life, will speed up the process many times over. However, it is also suggested that you repeat these rituals occasionally, perhaps once or twice a year. As you develop as a magician, so too will your ability to charge, imbue, and consecrate your tools. Another purpose of these consecration rituals is to allow you to see how the basic ritual, through small variations, becomes applicable to other purposes. In this case, a ritual used to consecrate one magical weapon by changing a few words and actions becomes usable to consecrate other tools. In time, you'll see the importance of this idea. It is also important to discuss these consecration rituals as they would be performed in a ceremonial situation. That is how they should be done in group workings. To answer this, we must again look back to the Golden Dawn, to that organization. The consecrations were a symbol of a person's passing from the outer mystical order, the Golden Dawn, into the inner magical order, the RR and AC. Thus, the person doing the consecrations should either do them privately or only with those who have already done their consecrations. No one else should watch. Those who do watch should add their visualization to those of the person doing the consecration. It is important that the person doing the consecration do the entire ritual by himself or herself. Consecration ritual for the fire wand. Step 1. Before the opening by the watchtower. Step 2. Take the fire wand in the left hand and hold the rainbow wand in your right. By the red band. This band is associated with Aries and the magical elements of fire. The fire wand should be held horizontally, and, as usual, the tracings in the air should be done with the black end of the rainbow wand. Face south and say, O thou who art timeless, thou who art mother and father of all things, thou who dost clothe thyself with the forces of nature as we don a robe, by thy holy and divine name, Elohim, whereto thou art known in this quarter by the secret name Dorom, I beseech thee to grant me strength and inner vision as I search for inner wisdom within thy hidden light. Step 3. Continue saying, I humbly request as a student of thy mystic laws that thou mayest cause thy archangel Michael to guide me on my holy journey. Please also direct thine angel Ariel to watch over me and protect me as I traverse thy mystic pathways of the universe. Step 4. Continue saying, May the ruler of fire, the powerful Prince Seraph, by the permission of the Eternal One, increase and strengthen the secret forces and virtues of this wand, so that I may use it to perform those rituals, magical rituals, for which it has been fashioned. It is to this end that I now perform this rite of consecration in the presence of divine Elohim. Step 5. Place the rainbow wand on the altar and pick up the dagger you usually use for the LBRP. Return to the south. With the dagger, make a large invoking pentagram of fire, see Lesson 5, over the horizontally held fire wand as you say. By the 3 secret holy names of God born upon the banners of the south, Oepeta Pedoke, I summon thee, O great king of the south, Idoperd Naa, to be here now, to increase the effect of this ritual, whose purpose is to consecrate this magical wand. Give it power anew. to be more than capable in all works of fire, so that by it I may find a strong defense and powerful weapon to direct the spirits of the elements as is dictated by the one whom naught but silence can express. Step 6. Replace the dagger on the altar and return to the south. Hold the fire wand horizontally at chest level and say, O mighty princes of the great southern quadrangle, I invoke you and ask that ye hear my petition and be here now. Bestow upon this wand the strength and purity whereof ye are masters, so that its outward and material form may be a true symbol of its invoked inner and spiritual force. Step 7. Circumambulate once around the circle until you return to the south. Hold the wand above your head with the pointed end and say, O thou mighty angel, Bezod-Yezoda, thou who rulest the four angels of most fiery fire, I invoke thee, be here now, and press into this wand those magical powers which thou dost rule, that with it I may also govern those spirits over whom thou art Lord. Step 8. Move to the west and hold the wand on high, and say, O thou might angel, Be-an-a-a, thou who rulest the four angels of fluid fire, I invoke thee. Be here now, and press into this wand those magical powers which thou dost rule, that with it I may also govern those spirits over whom thou art Lord. Step 9. Move to the east, raise the wand, and say, O thou mighty angel, Be-do-pe, thou who rules the four angels of ethereal fire, I invoke thee. Be here now, and press into this wand those magical powers which thou dost rule, that which I may also govern these spirits over whom thou art Lord. Step 10. In a similar manner, upon moving to the north, say, O thou mighty angel, Be-pe-zaka, thou who rulest the four angels of densest fire of earth, I invoke thee. Be here now, and impress into this wand those magical powers which thou art dost rule, that with it I may also govern those spirits over whom thou art Lord. Step 11. Now do the LBRP with two differences. Use the fire wand instead of the usual dagger, and B, trace the invoking pentagram of fire instead of the usual banishing pentagrams of earth. Step 12. Replace the now charged and consecrated fire wands in its appropriate place on the altar. Finish by performing the closing by watchtower. Use a piece of red or white cotton or silk to cover the fire wand. The rite is finished. When you have finished performing these rites to your satisfactory, we are harder judges of ourselves than we are of others. You will no longer be a beginner or neophyte in the world of magic. Very few have started down the path leading to a magical way of life. Fewer go past the first few faltering steps. It is a minuscule number indeed who can claim to be true masters of the magical art. No, you are by no means a master of ceremonial magic, even if you have already practiced and learned from these first 6 lessons. But from my experience, if you have practiced and learned, you probably are more knowledgeable and magically adept than 75% to 95% of those calling themselves magicians. This is true even though you have not as yet done any real practical or gray magic. It is not well known, but there were really 2 inner orders in the Golden Dawn. No members of the outer order were supposed to know about either of these inner orders or their workings. One of these inner orders only had 1 degree and taught no magic. It was where people who were judged to have no magical skills were placed. Even they were not aware of the full meaning of the magical inner order, the RRA et AC. The name is a Latin abbreviation for Red Rose and Gold Cross. To get into the RR and AC, you needed to be invited. Once invited, it was your task to make and consecrate your magical tools. Entry into a grade of a magical order was done by initiation, meaning to start. A person did not have the full abilities of a degree when he or she entered that degree, only theoretically when it was left or completed. Therefore, for all practical purposes, if you have done the work, done the study, and understand what you are doing, for all reasonable purposes you have attended or attained, entered the grade of Adeptus Minor. Therefore, furthermore, so long as you do not claim that grade as a result of initiation into a particular group, I see no reason why you should not consider yourself and describe yourself as an Adeptus Minor. Although rarely used, the appropriate title of this grade for a woman is a Adepta Minora. It is therefore appropriate that you take for yourself the obligations to the magical path. Once you have done this, you are an Adeptus Minor, a person prepared to be a wizard and magician. The ritual of magical obligation. Step 1. Set up your temple and do the opening by the watchtower. Step 2. Say the following self-obligation. I state your magical name or motto. Do this day spiritually bind myself to a magical way of life. I will, to the utmost, lead an unselfish life, and will prove myself a faithful and devoted servant to the divine sources of all, who works in silence and not but silence can express the unity beyond duality, the unity beyond comprehensible unity. I will keep secret all practical and theoretical knowledge from those whom, in my judgment, are not ready to receive it. For to tell the truth to someone who is not ready to accept it is the same as telling that person a lie. I will not claim to be anything more than I am, a student of the magical way of life, light, love, and freedom. Not being an initiate of an order, I will not initiate anyone. I will perform all practical magic in a place concealed and apart from the gaze of the outer world. I will not display my magical implements nor reveal the use of them to those who are not at a level where they need to know of them. I will not make any symbol or talisman for those who are not truly in need of such help. Before those with little knowledge of magic, I will only perform simple and well-known techniques, keeping the deeper wisdom and methods for those who are themselves ready to learn. I further promise and swear that with the divine permission, I will, from this day forward, apply myself to the great work, which is to purify and exalt my spiritual nature, so that with the divine aid, I may at length attain to do more than human, and thus gradually raise and unite myself to more higher and divine genius. And that in this event, I will not abuse the great power entrusted to me, which is to purify and exalt my spiritual nature, so that with the divine aid I may at length attain to be more than human, and thus gradually raise and unite myself to my higher and divine genius, and that in this event I will not abuse the great power entrusted to me. I furthermore solemnly pledge never to work at my important magical task without first invoking the highest divine names connected therewith. I especially pledge not to debase my knowledge of practical magic to purposes of evil and self-seeking. If in spite of this pledge I do so, then I invoke the avenging angel, Hayu, that the evil may react on me. I promise to treat all people with equality no matter their race, religion, or sex. I will not slander, I will not lie, I will not spread rumors. I undertake to continue my practice of the magical way of life, whether I work with others or am unassisted. Finally, if in my travels I should meet a stranger whom claims magical knowledge, I will examine him or her before acknowledging that such is the case. I will reveal to that person nothing of the inner wisdom I have gained, such that which I could give to any man or woman, until I am sure that his or her claim to knowledge is true. Such are the word of this my obligation as an Adeptus Minor, Adepta Minora, whereunto I pledge myself in the presence of the Divine One and of the great avenging angel, Haua. By my own will and under their watchful vision, if I fail to keep my magical obligation, may my magical powers cease until that time when I can rightfully have them once again given unto me. So help me with my mighty and secret soul. Step 3. Finish with the closing by Watchtower. Part 7. One of the rather unique problems of people who spend many hours practicing and studying magic is dealing with other people concerning your interests. Generally speaking, there are 4 types of people you will be dealing with in relation to your magical beliefs. One are those who don't care one way or the other. They just figure that this is something you have involved in, and so what? They think you're a little bit weird, but they also probably think that everybody has a bit of weirdness in them. People in this category are usually too concerned with themselves to bother you. If they ask you any questions about what you do, answer them honestly, but at their level of understanding. Usually, after a few questions, they lose interest in that aspect of your life because they find their own life far more interesting. 2. Religious fanatics. Those people live a life based on fear and paranoia. Those who live a life filled with fear are those ones who are constantly trying to convert you to their particular religious sect or cult. They see everything as black and white, we and they. Since we are all right, you must be wrong. Therefore, I have to convert you to my faith because that way you will be right and there will be no one around to imply that I, horrors, could be wrong. For if I am wrong about this, then I could be wrong about everything in my life. I am too fearful to spend time examining my own life. This type of person is frequently but not always poorly educated when it comes to religion and philosophy. It was good enough for daddy, it's good enough for me, is their operative motto. If these people question you as to what you are doing, a good answer might be studying early Jewish philosophy. Then immediately tell them that they can help you. Ask them if they study the Bible. When they say yes, respond, good. I need to talk with someone who is fluent in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. When they hem and haw and finally admit that they really know little of any of those languages, just look at them with surprise on your face and tell them that you hope they will someday really begin to study the Bible. Then walk away. Remember, we are not trying to convert anybody to our magical point of view. Only learn ways to deal with others who do not share it. The other type of religious fanatic is one filled with paranoia. Though these people are usually but not always poor in a lower economic class. Although being poor does not automatically make you one of them, they accept the responsibility for nothing in their lives. Their problems are always somebody else's fault. They don't have money because Jews gypped them out of it. Gypped comes from the word gypsy. Here is another minority group unfairly depicted in modern English. Or else, blacks took all the jobs. It's always somebody else's fault. Those with this psychology and a more religious bent blame everything on demons. Demons cause their addiction to alcohol or tobacco or overeating. Demons keep them impotent or frigid. And demons control the bosses, so I can't keep a job. If this type of person asks you what you are doing, the best answer is minding my own business and wondering why you aren't doing the same. Quite simply, these people cannot be dealt with on any level. Therefore, it is best to get them out of your hair quickly. These people can also be quite dangerous. People with paranoid personalities may become schizophrenic and commit violently antisocial behavior. These are the people who roast their children in order to burn the demons out of them. These are the people where the sadists of the various inquisitions stay away from them. Third are those who don't want to believe in the possibility of something they can't understand in their own terms. These people, if they discover your interest in magic, will primarily try to mock and make fun of you. They don't have to deal with you if you and what you believe in are merely jokes. You can ignore these people and they will quickly lose interest in trying to antagonize you. On the other hand, if you are quick to anger, a clever repart can quickly quiet them. If someone asks you to turn them into a toad, haha, how clever, ask them why. After all, it would be repugnant. Although I don't really suggest it, if the person is obnoxious, you could add to this by referring to his eating materials, flies, and upon that material flies like to sit. Other allusions could be made to the similarity of the person's appearance with that of a frog, etc. If you go this route, the idea is to turn the topic away from you and into other persons. 4. Finally comes a more and less logical minded person who is interested in what you have to say, but as yet does not understand. What I like to tell this type of person is that I am studying ancient, little known metaphysical theories. 2,000 years ago, these theories included physics, mathematics, geometry, medicine, astronomy, reading, writing, and many other things. In those days, many of these beliefs were far more subjective than objective. Today, this is no longer true. Thus, what I am studying are the subjective philosophies of the present, which are destined to become the objective sciences of the future. I agree with the author of SSOTBME, who claims that there are four major viewpoints which we all have to a greater or lesser degree. These are logic, observation, feeling, and intuition. Mix intuition with logic and you get a religious bias. Mix feelings with intuition and you get an artistic bias. Mix logic with observation and you get a scientific bias. I choose to mix feelings with observation. The result is a magical bias. From this philosophy, everything is relative. If you have a strong religious bias, science and art would appear in some instances to be forms of magic. A stronger scientific bent would have a person to see economics and psychology as being more magical or artistic than scientific. An artistic bias would have a person thinking that astrology and philosophy are very scientific. Who would be right? All of them. From their own particular point of view. Thus, if we can discover where a person's particular bias lies, we can perhaps present our interest in ways which will be most easily understood by the person confronting us. Remember, the important part of dealing with people who are confronting you is to quickly gain control of the conversation. Then turn it around and talk about the other person rather than letting all the discussion be about you. Review. The following questions are designed to help you determine if you have mastered the information in Lesson 6. Please try to answer them without looking at the text. The answer is in Appendix 2. 1. What are the qualities of elemental fire? 2. Who is the Archangel of Fire? 3. How can 23 equals 40 equal 12? 4. How was a tripod used by magicians? 5. What is the secret force? 6. How do you pronounce the Enochian word AOZPI? 7. How many colors are in the rainbow wand? And 8. What are the secret holy names of God born upon the banner of the South? The following questions only you can answer. 1. Are you in control of elemental fire? 2. Are you still doing all of the rituals? 3. Are you attempting new rituals? 4. Are you constructing your tools? 5. Have you consecrated your tools? 6. Have you taken or are you going to take your magical obligation? 7. Have you ever had trouble dealing with people who did not like your interest in magic, the Kabbalah, etc.? 8. Do you understand the correspondences? And 9. Do you think you are on your way to becoming a powerful magician? If not, what do you think you need to do to learn or develop?